I'm very curious to see how many people actually join this.
Well, you're about to find out, Houdini, because for the first time this season, we are live. The graphics are coming off. Welcome, everyone, to Chatterbox Bearcats, the debut edition for the football season. We did this a little bit last year. We actually were planning on doing the football season as a pilot run last year, and what ended up happening is the team was so damn bad that by game 4, the coach that my co-host Houdini called one hot piece of ass, Scott Satterfield, Houdini refused to do a single game. He said, I am not giving up my Saturdays to watch this garbage. So it ended up me just being pretty depressed in literally my in-laws' basement. We got a new studio. I know it looks the exact same, but no longer the in-laws' basement. My own homeowner, Houdini. Houdini's out in Arizona. I'm watching the game right now in the Midwest. 75 seconds to go. Cincinnati, 617 total yards of offense. That's a storyline in this one. They lead by 18, but a lot to be desired against Towson is the Bearcats are just running out the clock. It'll be their first win at Nippert since the opening game of last year. That's how long it's been. So, Houdini, welcome to a new season, my man.
Yeah, full disclosure, as you can tell, it sounds like I'm talking out of a closet. As a podcaster, no days off, of course. I'm in Scottsdale, and I thought I brought everything. I forgot the mic. So bear with us as far as the audio quality. But, I mean, it's Towson, all right? It's an FCS school, so bear with us for this, okay, folks? But excited to be back, man. Excited to see some college football.
Bearcats, hold on. Whoa, we almost scored on the last play of the game. We'll see if they run out the clock, but they almost went to the house. Evan Pryor, he's been excellent. We'll get into more Evan Pryor. Go ahead, you could finish.
No, I'm just excited to see a full slate of college football, man. There is truly nothing better. And then we got NFL coming up. We'll stick with college, but it's a beautiful sight, man, to see this board. Some great games today, not necessarily Cincinnati Towson, but we're watching our squad. And hey, we're going to get into it. There's definitely some things to be desired, like you mentioned, as far as how this game played out.
All right, we're going to first of all update the record. Cincinnati improves to 1-0 on the season as they take the kneel. It is over. Cincinnati wins. Let's get this final score updated. And then we run just an impressive intro video that I spent days on. So I hope you really enjoy it. Cincinnati 38, Towson 20, the final. We start the audio portion right about now. This is Chatterbox Bearcats. You can find us wherever you stream your audio podcast. Be sure to subscribe that way right now in case you ever missed the YouTube shows. But for football and basketball, with 2 minutes left in the game, Houdini and myself are here. Chatterbox Bearcats. Cats are 1-0.
They only allow 40,000 into tiny Nippert Stadium.
They say nothing good in life comes easy.
You had to buy football tickets to get basketball tickets. And basketball is the hot ticket because Bob Huggins had the Bearcats rolling.
Program that was rumored to be disbanding about 15, 20 years ago after some huge losses.
They say the longer you have to wait for something, the more you'll appreciate it when that someday comes.
Caught! Touchdown, Armand Benz!
We thought the moment had arrived.
They are in the playoff.
Only to find out the moment's been too big.
Hey, go to hell!
At the end of the day, it's a business.
Present day, nobody believes in this team.
Scott Satterfield, no answers at the moment.
But with this program, the best things have come when you least expect it.
Number one, let's go!
And the Bearcats are up 16-0 in South Bend.
They're disciplined now. That loudspeaker came on as they leave the field. I mean, they turned it around now and got off the field.
Welcome to the only live Bearcats postgame show on YouTube. This is Chatterbox Bearcats. All right, Towson, start your buses. Head on back to Maryland or wherever the hell you came from because you got beat not as badly as I thought. Final score, 38-20 in favor of the Cincinnati Bearcats. Welcome into Chatterbox Bearcats. Chuck and Houdini with you. This is the only live postgame show on planet Earth that airs on YouTube, also wherever you find your audio podcasts. Join the community. Hopefully we have some Cats wins this year because it was ugly last year for football, and you know what happened in basketball. A lot of close games down the stretch. Houdini had hair at the beginning of last year, but he pulled it all out because Wes Miller's team couldn't get it done. Let's go with the good, the bad, and the ugly in this one. Brendan Sorsby, Joe Royer, Evan Pryor. Hell, the entire offense was the good. The special teams was the bad. And the defense, forget ugly. It was flat out disgusting. Just not a serious defense, Houdini. Towson was making it look easy for times in this game. Cats gave up over 400 yards. UC displayed their new 3-3-5 defense. It was quite frankly embarrassing, like Swiss cheese. But I don't want to get to the negatives. We had a lot of that last season. We flipped the page on 23-24, and we get excited for what Scott Satterfield and staff have in store this season. And I'll start with the good, Brendan Sorsby. Cats look to improve on an offense that was 86th in the country in points a game a season ago. They're going to be better, no doubt, but Sorsby was good, man. 42-yard deep ball to Xavier Henderson for a touchdown, a 61-yard TD to Sterling Burkhalter. He also showed off the ability to use his legs with 2 rushing touchdowns, 4 total touchdowns in the game. Sorsby even had the option pitch going, looked confident, says he wants to play a little like Josh Allen. Shorter than Josh Allen, but I like the deep ball. And if he's half of who Josh Allen is, then the Bearcats have a good quarterback on their hands. But, you know, I got to say this, Hudson, because Emory Jones went for like 700 yards in the opening game last year. So we got to hold our horses a little bit on how good Sorsby is. But just based off one game alone, watching the footwork, watching his technique outside of the pocket and the deep ball, I think the Bearcats have found their quarterback of the future, man. He looked legit. And welcome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it's an FCS school, but everything we saw from Sorsby was great. Just some of those deep balls that we saw. I mean, Emory Jones would have thrown some of those 30 yards over the receivers' heads. So I think Xavier Henderson especially is really going to enjoy Sorsby. Very accurate. Like you said, he can move with his feet as well. I think the offense, I think we have a ton of weapons this year. I don't think the offense is going to be the problem. I know we're about to talk about the defense. Just to give you my report card, Houdini's report card, offense A, defense F-, special teams D+, just because our punter is probably the best in the country. That's the final report card after this game against Towson.
Okay. Brendan Sorsby, who's 6'3", 235 pounds. If you've heard of the name, it's because you may have watched some Indiana Hoosiers football last year. He's pretty good, 1,500 yards, had 19 total touchdowns, 5 interceptions. This is a true freshman, so you got to love that. He's got weapons, man. I mean, his entire offensive line returns, led by Luke Kandra, who, I mean, preseason all Big 12 at the guard position, but returns the entire trench for him. And you know what they say. The battle is won in the trenches. He's gotten a 1,000-yard running back in Corey Kiner, his top receiver in Xavier Henderson, and a pair of Ohio State Buckeye transfers in Joe Royer and Evan Pryor. Pryor, a 64-yard rushing TD the first time he touched it. Royer, I can't emphasize enough how good this guy looked. And I know you love Joe Royer. But I'll tell you what, there's something about plucking Ohio State Buckeyes. Because I know years ago, I want to say it was like 2008, 2009, around that era when Brian Kelly really had the Bearcats rolling. You remember the shirts, Houdini. The Buckeye State with the UC on there. I never bought one. I thought it was a little audacious. I was like, you know, I realized we just beat a ranked UConn team, but we should probably hold our horses before we wear the Buckeye State shirts. And I'm a realist. We don't beat Ohio State. In fact, when we play them, even with good teams, they kick our ass. So when we can go up to Columbus and take some of their players, even if they don't play a ton of minutes there, I love it. Joe Royer played in meaningful games there. He played in like 14, 15 games in his career, and now he's a Cincinnati Bearcat. And I thought, aside from Sorsby, he was the most impressive Bearcat on the field today. I thought he looked excellent.
Absolutely. And I assume I was a little surprised we didn't see Pryor much in this game. He touched the ball, I think, 4 or 5 total times and had, 140 all-purpose yards, something in that ballpark. We got a really deep running backfield right now with Kiner, kind of the bruiser, Pryor. Probably one of the deepest backfields we've had in some time. And Elder, Joe Royer, he looks like he could be a serious problem. I mean, I don't want to say the next Travis Kelce out of UC, but he looks like it's almost shocking that he didn't get playing time at Ohio State with that size and frame and speed. So I think that's kind of going to be a safety net for Sorsby. And like I said, we got weapons really all over the place from an offensive standpoint. And when your strength is your offensive line, that makes everybody's job a whole lot easier. And we kind of saw that today. It took a little bit of time to kind of win that battle in the trenches, but by the end of it, we were kind of doing whatever we wanted. So you got to take what you can here. FCS school again, Towson, all due respect, they suck.
That's with all due respect to those fans of Towson that are tuning into the postgame show. Evan Pryor, 4 carries, 105 yards, a touchdown, a long of 64. He was the 101st rated player in the country coming out of high school. He was a 4-star, so that's when you know you got some talent, man. Cincinnati overall, and to go along with Pryor in the backfield, as we said, or Royer rather, we got Royer, the elder high school guy. We have Sterling Burkhalter, who scored a touchdown in the game on a deep ball. He's from Princeton. And then we got Corey Kiner, a little Roger Bacon High, Cincinnati, Roger Bacon High, not Rocky Mountain, Roger Bacon High. So Bearcats recruiting their own city, or at least plucking out of the transfer portal all 3 of those guys from their own city, because you remember Kiner started off at LSU. So we'll take it. And that's kind of the Bearcats' MO right now. We're the antithesis of Dabo Sweeney at Clemson, and they got shit pumped by the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, Dabo's done. Dabo is absolutely done. We'll get into that in a bit, but he has not started a single player from the transfer portal. He just refuses to do it. He's like, I'm going to build my own program down here in Clemson, and he has not done a good job of it because they're falling off. Cincinnati, on the other hand, they go with 47 new scholarship players, 26 from the portal, just a complete overhaul. So I didn't know what to expect. The defense was so bad last year that they went out, they got a new defensive coordinator in Tyson Veit. They got a brand new defensive secondary because they could not stop anyone last year. Satterfield said in the offseason he doesn't know what to expect. They're all new players. When the lights shine bright, you never know who turns up and starts to turn it on. Well, now we are expecting an alarming defense. They say defense wins championships. And if that's the case, then this team is not going to win a whole lot of games. That 5.5 is going to be a very tough number to go over, even with a good offense, because it was, let's be frank with you. Let's be Alex frank with you. The defense sucked, Houdini. It sucked. They were giving up 30 a game last year. Towson had 295 yards of offense in the first half, over 400 total yards overall. To put it in perspective, last season opener against the FCS foe, Eastern Kentucky, UC only gave up 302 yards the entire game. They gave up 295 to Towson in the first half today. It was Towson running free. It seemed like every single time they took a handoff, they took it 6-7 yards with ease on first down. They were completing deep balls. There was zero pressure, which I guess is understandable from a 3-3-5 and a defense that is missing the godfather, Dante Corleone, but they missed assignments. There were some bad penalties. Overall, it was just a poor defense all the way around. Do you take anything good away from this defense? I like one thing. Jared Bartlett, the transfer from West Virginia, he looked really good. Dingle looked good. Aside from that, the Heebies, man.
It wasn't great. Bartlett was the one guy that I highlighted. You know, when you're kind of just casually watching a game and you keep seeing a name pop up, and he was running all over the place. He looked great. Yeah, outside of that, I don't know many positives. I know the preseason hype train of, we got a bunch of new guys in here. Our D-line's going to be solid. We got new secondary. That secondary looked just about as bad as we did last year, and I think we ranked in the bottom 5, Power 5, as far as the secondary is concerned in advanced analytics. We might be worse at this point. We don't have Corleone. That's obviously a massive piece. I don't know if he's going to be able to make this defense. All we need the defense to do is not be an atrocity for us to be where we want to go this year. Just be bad. Don't be disgustingly bad. And Towson, again, they shouldn't be able to do what they want from an offensive perspective against UC. We're going to be playing in the Big 12 this year. It's going to get a lot harder than this. And, not a whole lot to take away from a positive standpoint from the defensive side of the ball.
we'll take away a win, and we'll take away a second half where really in the fourth quarter, Towson didn't do much of anything. Cats need a hot start this year, man. They got Pittsburgh coming up at Nippert Stadium on Saturday, September 7th. They follow that up with Miami, Ohio at beautiful Yeager Stadium in Oxford. Last time against the Red Hawks, at least for the time being. And then they host Houston. So 4-0 out of the gate is much needed before they go to Texas Tech. Then they go to UCF. They have Colorado sandwiched in there, West Virginia, Iowa State, Kansas State, TCU. This is a very backloaded schedule. So if Cincinnati starts off by losing to Pittsburgh, losing to Miami, Ohio, and going into Houston 1-2, oh, baby. I mean, Scott Satterfield is going to have some angry Cincinnati Bearcats fans wondering what the hell has happened to this beautiful program. But let's start off with the positives, and that's this team can really go 4-0 out of the gate, heading into Texas Tech, and give you something to be really excited about. Something that I wanted to bring up, because we all saw this, Jacob Tissot, I believe that's how you say his name. He's French. Jacob Tissot from Chatterbox Sports. We had a few people on Twitter saying, I will never, ever, ever tune in to Chatterbox Bearcats after what one of your colleagues said about our wonderful program. First of all, I've never met the guy. Second of all, I don't work on any of the shows that he works on. Houdini and myself are private contractors. We run this show ourselves. It's independent programming on Chatterbox's platform because they're very good people to let us run the stuff. However, what Jacob Tissot said about this beautiful program is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Respectfully, Jacob. Respectfully. Listen to this, everyone.
How alluring is a job like the Bearcats in the college football landscape?
Maybe this is a hater take, and I think Cincinnati is one of the worst jobs in the entire Power 5. Because you play in a state that you can't control recruiting-wise. Ohio State will always, for all of eternity, run Ohio recruiting-wise. You're also so far away from the pipelines associated with your conference. That's Texas, that's Georgia, that's a lot of that middle belt, the good players out of that, Kansas, that Oklahoma, that middle stretch. There's very few good players in there, but that's where the Big 12 dominates. That's why you see teams like Nebraska back in the day truly dominate in the Big 12. I think UC's towards the bottom half of college football, Power 5 jobs, if not one of the bottom few.
All right, let's roast this guy's ass. That was terrible, Hudson. I mean, everything about it from start to finish was extremely flawed. Let's start with the fact that he says one of the worst Power 5 jobs in the entire country. Conference of Champions is no more, bub. There's no more Power 5. So the first argument that you make, one of the worst jobs in the Power 5, you're factually incorrect. Dummy. Second, I love the Heartland. And I love the argument that he's going with here. Like, all the talent in Nebraska and Kansas and Oklahoma. Who the hell has ever said that in the history of mankind? All this talent in Kansas, since Kansas is known for their high school football. Let's talk about some of the other teams in the league. I mean, Iowa, what a hotbed. West Virginia, hotbed for high school athletics. Arizona, Utah. I mean, Cincy is closer to Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida than any other team in the Big 12. So that's a flawed premise right there. Also, you make the argument about Ohio State dominating the state. That's fine. We'll take Ohio State's second stringers when they can't play there and win some games off that alone. Forget that. Cincinnati has a very rich high school football talent bed. He's a Bomber. He should know that. Bombers have great players. If Luke Kuechly if Boston College can lure a Luke Kuechly, then Cincinnati's going to find some of them there. So that's a flawed argument. And then you talk about how the other teams that are fighting with state teams. I mean, Florida's fighting, UCF's fighting with 5 different teams in their state. And then you're talking about a program in Cincinnati that was one of the most winning in the entire country over a 5-year stretch before last year. They made it to a playoff. A damn good fight against Georgia the prior year in the Peach Bowl, consistent bowl bursts. Every coach minus Tommy Tuberville has been able to come in and have some sort of success in the last 20 years. That doesn't happen at garbage programs. Go ask Northwestern and Rutgers and Duke, and I mean the list goes on and on. Cal and SMU and Syracuse and Illinois and Georgia Tech and Maryland. One of the worst Power 5 jobs in the country. You are high, Jacob. You're high. Get out of here, Houdini.
Yeah, I mean, so it's Tissot, you said? That's how you pronounce it? I was
I
thinking
don't,
Tissot
I
the
don't
whole
know.
time.
I
All right,
don't know. We'll go
Tissot.
Tissot.
I mean,
He's
listen,
French.
I've heard he's a good guy, comes from a good family, good kid. But what he said was truly one of the most asinine things I've ever heard. And he thought he was like cooking. He was like bringing up points about battling with Ohio State. First off, do you know that Vanderbilt exists? Yeah, you want Vanderbilt's job? You got to be kidding me. I mean, there's been 15 teams that have played in the college football playoff since it started in 2014. UC is one of those teams. And you're going to sit there and tell me that it's the worst Power 5 job in the country. We had 9 players drafted in 2022. If we want to get into recruiting, we had 9 players. That was third in all of college football, ahead of your beloved Ohio State. Okay? So it made no sense. It just truly made absolutely no sense. I mean, even in the current 247 recruiting rankings, we're currently 7th out of 16 for 2024. Okay? Like let's do some research, Jacob. Because what you're saying, I know you had a battle with Brendel on Twitter. I chose to stay out of it. I go, listen, this is friendly fire. But we'll have a take when the time is right, and the time is right now because it makes no sense. UC will be a very sought-after job if Satterfield can't figure it out. I know you mentioned playing Miami. If we lose to Miami, Satterfield's gone. Let's make that clear, and this will be a very sought-after job. So it's just ridiculous commentary.
Ridiculous commentary, no doubt about it. You know what? Take Labor Day off, Jacob. In fact, take the entire week off. Just, sip on a few pina coladas, enjoy the sunshine before the Cincinnati fall turns into winter very quickly, and go cheer on your. He's a Bama fan and a Buckeye fan. I mean, that's as bad as it gets. That's
gross.
Just truly an absolute atrocity. But Cincinnati improves to 1-0. They take down Towson 38-20. At Nippert Stadium. Up next for the Bearcats is the Pitt Panthers, a rematch of last year, a game that Cincinnati won, and after they did win that game behind a big rushing performance from Corey Kiner, we thought that Scott Satterfield had this program on the right track, and then all hell broke loose after that Miami game. All hell broke loose. But the game's at noon against Pittsburgh. That's Eastern time, so Houdini and myself will be back with you then. One thing that I wanted to get into before we send this show off on a good note and call it a day and hit the town, and you being in Scottsdale, enjoy yourself some dry air, is Dabo Sweeney. Because as a Cincinnati Bearcats fan, there are a lot of teams that I have the right to hate, right? Pittsburgh being one of those teams. UConn, I still hate them. I mean, even though they stink, I don't even know what their football program's doing nowadays. What are they, an independent? I hate them. I don't hate West Virginia that much. I respect them. I respect the Mountaineers. We both have family that's tied to the Mountaineers, so I don't hate them as much. Louisville, hate them. UCF, UCF's the worst. And we're starting a rivalry with Iowa State because they have a great fan base, and we're hoping that Iowa State just implodes so we can make fun of those people over there in Ames, Iowa. But one of the other teams we both hate is the Clemson Tigers. Why? I don't know. But Dabo Sweeney, to me, is just the holier than thou and just the worst. So right now he's getting, after he and his squad got ragdolled by 35 points to Georgia, he is getting lit up on Twitter. I saw one quote with a picture of him saying, "They're saying I'm washed. You're darn right I am. Washed in the blood of the Lamb." Another one that I saw, "Everyone's saying we only got 3. Well, I'd say we got the biggest 3 of them all. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost." And look, Houdini and I raised Catholic. But Dabo Sweeney does it to himself, man. They asked him about NIL and what he thought of it, and he's like, all our players play in God's name, image, and likeness. And just says some things that make him an easy target. But apparently things are not going well at all in Clemson because they lose big. West Virginia, I believe, fell in the game to Penn State. Yes, 34-12. Oklahoma State had a win in the Big 12. And then aside from that, we got a lot of bad football games in the Big 12 for the most part. Colorado did win their game against North Dakota State that was on Thursday, I believe. And then Ohio State taking care of business against Akron. Miami, Florida, just destroying the Gators. The Gators appear to stink. and the beloved Ohio Bobcats losing big to the Syracuse Orange. But overall, man, it's great to have football back. Tell you what, you get older and the summer just flies. You know, you're younger and you get put into a timeout. You were telling me this story. Your mom used to put you in timeout and say, go up to your room, and 5 minutes would feel like 7 hours. Nowadays, you snap your fingers and summer's already done. What has happened?
We had a great summer. But it was time to get some sports back into our lives. So I am welcoming football season with open arms. Hopefully our Bearcats can surprise some people. There was definitely some positives to take away from today. Defense, we got to figure out. I mean, from what I've heard, Connor Stallions is a free agent. We might need to call him. It would help if our defense knew the plays that they were running. So maybe give Connor a call before we get into Big 12 play, and we can figure this thing out.
Final numbers for Brendan Sorsby is he was, I would say, one of the most impressive people on the field today. I really did like what Joe Royer brought to the mix. Some of the stats for the Bearcats. Sorsby went 22 of 31 for 383 yards and 2 touchdowns. Corey Kiner, the 7 carries for 56 yards. Evan Pryor, the 4 for 105 and a touchdown. Henderson led the way receiving, 7 catches, 101 yards and a touchdown. Joe Royer, 5 catches, 89 yards, along a 38. Burkhalter had 2 catches, 70 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Turner, 2 for 68. And then Bearcats fumbled it 5 times in the game. They lost it 3 times. There was a point in the fourth quarter there where they recovered a fumble. They fumbled it again. There were like 3 fumbles in one possession. At that point, I was like, this game just needs to end. This is gross. Bartlett with 6 tackles, 3 of them solo, had a sack and 2 tackles for a loss. And then the other sacks in the game, Eric Phillips had 1. And who else? Cameron Wilson had 1. The Bearcats a total of 3 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. And they give up a total of 231 passing yards to Towson, and Towson rushes for 194 yards on the ground. So we will see you after the Pittsburgh game. Also, if you're not subscribed to Chatterbox Sports as a whole, go ahead and do that right now. Give this video the thumbs up. And in addition to that, go ahead and subscribe to the Chatterbox Bearcats YouTube page. That is a channel moving forward that'll have weekly content, player interviews, breakdowns after games with our man Chase Younce and Eric Lilly of the Bearcat Bounce. So good stuff overall. You need to join it. It's free. If it's free, it's for me. Any final words, Houdini, before we send you off into the Phoenix sky?
Nope. We will see you next week. Let's keep it going. Keep the train rolling.
Keep the good mojo going, everyone. All right, Chatterbox Bearcats with Chuck and Houdini. Cincinnati is 1